Hello everyone, how you doing? I just thought I'd check in again. It's Ron from Ron Talks Rock. Once again, another video here where I mentioned a topic the last time, but I'm kind of switching it up because, a lot of stuff has happened in the rock scene. Obviously, the big news, Ozzy Osbourne's death, and to people my age and our bracket, that's a huge, mountain of a star gone. That's for sure. I mean, that's a big one. Ozzy was important. You can go back a couple of videos ago. I did a full review video on the big show. Back to the beginning. It was a lot of fun to do. It was a fun day to watch, and then 2 weeks later, give or take, we lose Oz. So I don't think it's any big shocker to most of us, watching the show, but. So it sort of spurred me on to a different topic idea for this video, but it wasn't just that. Some other rock news recently that's happened that kind of got me thinking about this topic is, there's a lot of news about Josh Freese leaving, getting let go from Foo Fighters, and I saw a lot of, I follow a lot of the sites and people chit-chat on social media about that fact, and then followed up by Matt Cameron's departure, the drummer from Pearl Jam. And a lot of people on social media talking about how bad it is that Matt Cameron left Pearl Jam, and what's Pearl Jam gonna do? And I don't know. I mean, I'm a big fan of Pearl Jam, big fan, and big fan of Matt Cameron, I guess, as a member of Pearl Jam. I thought he did extremely well. The drumming on the newest Pearl Jam record was excellent. Josh Freese, another person that I think did, he's a good, well thought of and highly regarded musician in the rock scene. However, I kind of got thinking about, wow, what's the difference between some of these guys that are professional musicians and the rock stars like Ozzy? That is a mega rock star. And I thought to myself, I'm going to do a video and sort of try to chip away at and give a nod to or notice those rock people in my collection that are truly rock stars. Now, there's a bunch that are gone, so this isn't just about that. I already did a video, a while back, number of months ago, long time ago, and I rattled off some of my top picks for noticeable rock stars that have deceased, and you can go back and look at that if you want to, and that's not what this is, but I did want to start this video by talking about three big ones in my collection that were real rock stars and what made them so. So Ozzy, obviously, there's been so much talk on social media about it. I have to say, wow, this just raining accolades for this fella. Wow. I mean, Ozzy was a big deal to me growing up. This album in particular was, his debut as a solo artist. And my first concert I ever went to, Ozzy at Maple Leaf Gardens with Randy Rhoads. We were so young, I barely remember it. But that's a memory. So what made him so great and what makes him so revered? I mean, I think it's just longevity and his character, and that's one of the things I was thinking about for this video. Is some of these people, they're rock stars, many of them stand out because they've carved their own persona, and a guy like Ozzy, he has that persona of who he is, the Ozman, the Prince of Darkness, and all that character. But really what made him shine so well with people is that he was real, genuine, and it wasn't just a stage act. So Ozzy is one of those true rock stars that you could say that's a rock star. So Ozzy, rest in peace, but he's one. So another one to mention is Eddie Van Halen. Okay, Eddie Van Halen, to me, Ed was and still to this day is revered as one of the true rock stars. And why? Well, Eddie was just so proficient and such a unique player on his instrument, and carved a different brand for his instrument. So I think that's the main reason why, you know, he stands out as a true rock star, and he was so cool, and his look and all of that was, you know, the reason why Eddie Van Halen is one of those revered past rock stars. And in my world here, because I'm a Canadian, and yeah, is Gord Downie. You know, Gord Downie to me is a true rock star. And what I wanted to say with these people that I'm mentioning is, I'm a band guy. I've mentioned this before, and you know, Ozzy's more of a solo guy, but still, he was the band engine. Eddie Van Halen was the, you know, and like the talent, the engine that ran Van Halen. Gord Downie, to me, I love the hip, but the hip to me are Gord Downie. Gord Downie was the guy that wrote the lyrics, and he had such a cool stage presence and style. You know, Gord was very, very, very unique individual artist, and therefore to me, those are my kind of like three I wanted to note that are deceased real rock stars, and why. So there's others, you know, there's some that are well known, that are some are in my collection, some are people that I don't know enough about to really talk too much about, you know. But yeah, these are three that I wanted to mention. Now, some ones that are with us still to this day that I think are in a different level than your professional rock musicians that are famous, okay? I mean, taking nothing away from guys like Matt Cameron and Josh Freese. That's fine, I get it. They're important musicians, but there's a different level when you're talking about these people. So, you know, one of the early guys, to me, the earliest guy in my rock life is Angus Young, AC/DC, and you know, he's still clinging on to that career, I guess, a little bit now at his age, but such a small little guy, and that outfit that he wore all these years, and his style, he is the true rock star. So when if you're ever in a room or you had a chance to meet some of these people, they stand out as iconic for these reasons. So Angus Young is certainly on my list. Here's a guy that's on my list that's kind of growing recently to me, and but there's no denying his uniqueness and his style, and it's Robert Smith from The Cure. You know, Robert has always had such a cool, unique style and way about him, but you know, the more I've learned about him in the last while, you know, more respect I have for the guy as a rock star, because he has a, you know, unquestionable talent and unquestionable desire to be such a cool musician. So Robert Smith's on my list. Another guy on my list that is is to me an outstanding, unbelievable rock star is Neil Young. You know, a guy that's been around a long time and made just mountains of amazing music. You know, Neil Young has, you know, solo and with his various bands, to me, has a different status above most musicians, Neil Young as a rock star. And here's a guy that has, to me, developed into one of our sort of signature rock stars, and that's Eddie Vedder. You know, Eddie has, whether it's his solo stuff like this, or, you know, he is the man that, you know, he's the man with Pearl Jam, one of my favorite bands, and Eddie is, to me, such a standout rock star. You know, the reasons are, you know, such an amazing career of music, but just such a legitimate, genuine musician and creator. Yeah, and a cool style that he's developed. Here's a couple guys that you just can't talk about rock stars that are still with us. You know, Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. I mean, come on. Jagger and Richards are literally living legends and still going. So yeah, you know, Jagger with his, you know, one of those original frontmen dancing around, small guy, still looks pretty crazy good for his age. And you have Keith Richards, you know, one of the original rock bad boys that, yeah, still going. Now, speaking of original rock bad boys, here's another guy to me is a rock star, and that's Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. you know, been around since the 70s doing their thing. And, you know, Steven was kind of had to back off because of his vocal problems, and Aerosmith, you know, may or may not be able to do something to mark the end of their career. But to see him on stage for the Ozzy show, and the guy still looked insanely cool and different than most rockers on the stage, and so unique. So got to mention him. And then of course Led Zeppelin. You got Jimmy Page and you got Robert Plant, but to me it's Plant that is, you know, sort of your living, walking legend, because here's a guy that's still doing live performances and still singing Led Zeppelin songs, just in different fashion, different formats. And yeah, what an incredible guy that guy's career has been. Here's one that's maybe not as in the same level as some of these, but to me is still such a unique rock star and musician, and that's Morrissey. You know, a guy that has this very unique style, very unique personality, interesting, you know, viewpoints about things, and just a crazy cool artist that's still vibrant in these times. And then of course, to me, big rock star, world class, is Bono. You know, Edge as well, but really it's Bono for me that stand out as the king of the band U2, and all that they kind of are and all that they stand for with his political activism and his various endeavors. Bono is, you know, cut above most you know, active musicians, that's for certain. So that's my video today. I wanted to talk a little bit about these real rock stars, and there's certainly lots of others that I could mention in my collection. This is just a group that I thought stand out. You know, at my age, you're starting to get concerned about some. I was concerned about Ozzy for a long time, and you know, I don't know, there's others. You know, there's Angus Young, and you know, the guy that I watch for is the guitarist from Judas Priest, Glenn Tipton, has been quite ill for a while, but yeah, you know, bracing for those types of news. You know, Ozzy's departure is you know, it is very felt because of his, you know, his stature in my youth. So you see some of these guys leaving, and yeah, you know, hey, people get older and that's what happens. And but a triumphant end to his life and career. So here's to the Ozman. And yeah, I'm not going to even mention my next video because I keep changing it up lately, and we'll see what strikes me, and I'll come at you again with another video. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you don't mind. That would be great. And yeah, take care of yourselves. Enjoy summer. See you later. Bye.